First contact gone wrong. The Atheos drifted silently through the asteroid field, its sleek hull gleaming under the distant starlight. Chief researcher Valnar Tellus watched from the bridge as his team made final preparations for their most exciting discovery in decades. His skin, a pale blue that darkened with age and experience, wrinkled around his four eyes as he narrowed them in concentration. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying that distinctive Miraxian lilt that had earned him both respect and mockery during his 200 cycles at the Galactic Confederation's Xenorchaeology Division. "Life support optimal. Boarding team ready," responded Kira Nix, his second in command. The Centauri's tentacle-like appendages danced over the holographic controls with practiced precision. "The object remains dormant. No energy signatures detected." Valnar nodded, his cranial ridges pulsing with excitement. And yet it survived. After all this time. Before them hung the prize, a massive vessel of obvious military design, its angular hull pockmarked with micrometeorite impacts and cosmic radiation burns. The ship was easily twice the size of the Atheos, with a design philosophy that spoke of function over aesthetic. It was beautiful in its brutalist efficiency. It was human. "Humans," whispered Valnar, almost reverently. "The great extinction. The species that vanished before we could properly study them." According to Confederation historical records, humans had been an emerging spacefaring species that had suddenly disappeared around 300 cycles ago. Their home system had been found empty, their colonies abandoned. Most scientists believed they had fallen victim to some cataclysmic event, or perhaps their own violent tendencies, a common fate for emerging civilizations. "Boarding craft away," announced Kira. "Team Epsilon has launched." On the view screen, a small shuttle detached from the Atheos and made its way toward the derelict warship. Inside were 6 of the Confederation's finest researchers, specialists in xenotechnology and extinct civilizations. "Remember," Valnar spoke into the comm, "this is purely research. Document everything. The Archival Congress will want comprehensive records of human military technology, primitive though it may be." "Understood, Chief," came the response from Dr. Ziv, the team leader. "Approaching docking bay now." "Interesting. The bay doors are responding to our proximity. They're opening automatically." Valnar frowned. "I thought you said there were no energy signatures." "There weren't," Kira replied, tentacles twitching nervously. "The ship must have some kind of backup power system we couldn't detect from outside." "Proceed with caution," Valnar instructed, a tiny seed of unease taking root in his mind. The team's helmet cameras showed the shuttle entering a vast hangar bay, large enough to house dozens of smaller craft. The space was empty save for maintenance equipment and loading mechanisms. Everything was secured, as if the crew had expected to return. "Atmosphere present," reported Dr. Ziv as they disembarked. "Composition, surprisingly breathable. Temperature 15 degrees Celsius. Gravity at 1.1 standard. The preservation systems are still functioning after 3 centuries. Remarkable engineering," murmured Valnar. "Collect samples of everything." The team moved deeper into the ship, their lights illuminating corridors designed for beings slightly larger than most Confederation species. The walls were lined with conduits and access panels bearing markings in the angular script of human language. "These markings identify this vessel as the UNS Defiant," translated Dr. Jorrell, the linguist. "United Nations ship, presumably." As they moved toward what appeared to be the command center, the ship around them began to change. Lights flickered on, systems hummed to life, and the temperature gradually rose to more comfortable levels. "The ship is responding to our presence," observed Dr. Ziv, voice tight with excitement. "Some kind of automated system." They reached the bridge, a circular chamber filled with workstations and dominated by a captain's chair positioned before a massive viewport. Unlike Confederation vessels, which utilized holographic interfaces, the human ship featured physical controls, buttons, switches, and tactile surfaces. "So inefficient," remarked Dr. Telvac, the technology specialist. Yet there's an elegance to it, physical redundancy in case of power failure. Dr. Telvac approached what appeared to be the main console and ran his scaled hands over the surface. To everyone's surprise, the console illuminated, displays coming to life with scrolling data. "Interesting," he murmured. "The interface is adapting to." The screen suddenly flashed red, and an alarm blared through the ship. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the bridge, the first truly advanced technology they'd seen on the vessel. It showed a humanoid figure, translucent blue and clearly artificial. "Unauthorized access detected," it announced in perfect galactic standard, its voice resonant and calm despite the alarming message. "Identity verification required." The research team froze, staring at the projection in shock. "It speaks our language," Dr. Ziv whispered. "Adaptive linguistic protocols," the hologram responded. "Your communication frequencies have been monitored and analyzed since your approach. State your identity and purpose." Valnar, watching from the Atheos, felt his heart racing. "Respond truthfully," he instructed through the comm. "We are peaceful researchers." Dr. Ziv stepped forward. "We are researchers from the Galactic Confederation. We discovered this vessel and boarded for scientific study. We believe this ship to be abandoned." The hologram's expression remained neutral. "This vessel is the United Nations ship Defiant, a Phoenix-class heavy destroyer. It is not abandoned. It is on standby protocol awaiting retrieval. You are trespassing on military property of the Human Alliance." A chill ran through the research team. Valnar leaned forward in his chair, mandibles clicking with tension. "Human Alliance?" Dr. Ziv asked cautiously. "Our records indicate that humanity became extinct approximately 300 cycles ago." For the first time, the hologram's expression changed. A slight tilt of the head, a narrowing of eyes. "Your information is incorrect. Stand by for security scan." A wave of energy pulsed through the bridge, washing over the research team. Several of their devices sparked and went dead. "Scan complete," the hologram announced. 6 non-human entities identified. No known species match in primary database. Intent assessment. Investigative, potentially hostile. Defense protocols initiated. "We are not hostile," Dr. Ziv exclaimed, raising his hands. "We are scientists. Scientists attempting unauthorized access to military systems," the hologram countered. "This vessel contains classified technology. Your actions constitute a security breach." Throughout the ship, more systems began activating. Panels sealed shut, doors locked, and a low hum began building from somewhere deep within the vessel. "Chief, something's happening," Kira reported from the Atheos. "The ship is generating an energy signature now. It's powerful, more advanced than anything in our database." Valnar felt his blood run cold. "Extraction team, return to your shuttle immediately. Abort the mission." The research team turned to leave, but the bridge doors sealed before they could exit. "Departure denied," the hologram stated. "Initiating containment protocols. Transmitting alert to Human Alliance Command. Estimated response time, 6 hours. Response time." Valnar whispered, "That's impossible. Humans are extinct. They can't respond." The hologram seemed to look directly through the camera feed to Valnar himself. "The Human Alliance controls 17 systems within this galactic sector alone. Our nearest patrol is stationed at Proxima Outpost. They will arrive to address this incursion." On the Atheos, sensor alarms began blaring. Kira's tentacles worked frantically over the controls. "Chief, the ship is transmitting. A powerful burst signal directed toward the Perseus arm. And there's something else. The ship's defense systems are coming online. I'm detecting weapon signatures unlike anything I've ever seen." Valnar stared at the screen in horror. The dormant vessel was now fully awake, its hull glowing with energy as weapon ports opened along its flanks. What they had thought was a derelict relic was revealing itself to be something far more dangerous. "Humans aren't extinct," he realized aloud. "They'd been out there all along, beyond our borders, and we just triggered a military alert on one of their warships." The hologram on the Defiance bridge spoke again, its voice now carrying the hint of warning. "This vessel will remain in lockdown until Alliance forces arrive. Any attempt to damage this ship or remove its technology will result in immediate defensive measures. Your research vessel is now targeted." Dr. Ziv looked directly into his camera. "Chief Valnar, you need to withdraw the Atheos to a safe distance. Now, we'll try to explain our intentions." "I cannot leave you," Valnar protested. "The ship won't harm us if we comply," Dr. Ziv replied, though uncertainty tinged his voice. "But it will destroy the Atheos if you attempt to rescue. You need to warn the Confederation." With great reluctance, Valnar gave the order to withdraw to the edge of the asteroid field, just far enough to maintain visual contact, but beyond the presumed weapons range of the human vessel. "Maintain communications," he instructed, "and prepare a priority message to Confederation Command. Tell them." He paused, the implications sinking in. "Tell them that humanity isn't extinct. They're advanced, they're militarized, and now they know we exist." On the bridge of the Defiant, the research team watched as the hologram monitored their every move. Systems throughout the ship continued to activate, like a predator slowly stretching after a long sleep. "Why did humanity withdraw from known space?" Dr. Jorrell asked cautiously. "Why hide your existence?" The hologram regarded him with that unnervingly calm expression. After the Proxima incident, the Alliance determined that contact with emerging galactic civilizations posed unacceptable risks. A policy of non-interference was established until such civilizations demonstrated sufficient technological and ethical advancement. "What was the Proxima incident?" Dr. Ziv asked. The hologram's expression darkened slightly. "That information is classified. Suffice it to say that humanity learned the cost of trust. We watch, we wait, we prepare." A shudder ran through the ship, and new alarms sounded. The hologram looked up. "Alert! Multiple vessels detected entering the system at high velocity." Its eyes returned to the research team. "Human Alliance First Response Fleet has arrived." The hologram smiled for the first time, and there was nothing reassuring about it. "Response time has been revised." They made excellent time. From the Atheos, Valnar watched in mounting horror as space itself seemed to tear open. Where there had been empty void, massive warships now appeared, a fleet of vessels that dwarfed both the Atheos and the Defiant. Their designs were similar but clearly more advanced, with sleeker lines and pulsing energy signatures that defied Confederation classification. "Chief," Kira whispered, "we're being scanned." A new transmission reached them, audio only, in crisp galactic standard. "Confederation vessel, this is Admiral Helena Vega of the Human Alliance First Response Fleet. You have interfered with a military asset and are holding Alliance personnel hostage. Stand down immediately, prepare to be boarded, and surrender your command staff for questioning." Valnar stared at the fleet in stunned silence, the truth finally sinking in. The humans hadn't gone extinct. They had evolved, advanced, and expanded, all beyond the knowledge of the Confederation. And now, they had returned, and they were not pleased. "The hunt begins." Captain Ilara Shaw stood on the bridge of the Hay Indomitable, her expression unreadable as she studied the holographic display. The alien research vessel, identified as belonging to something called the Galactic Confederation, hung in space like a gleaming insect, delicate and foreign compared to the robust design of human warships. "Tactical assessment," she ordered, her voice carrying the calm authority that had earned her command of the Alliance's Rapid Response Battle Group. Commander Darius Chen, her XO, stepped forward. "The alien vessel is lightly armed, point defense systems only, designed for asteroid deflection rather than combat. Their shields are adequate for navigation but wouldn't withstand military-grade weapons. They've made no hostile moves since our arrival." And the Defiant. Automated systems functioning at 92%. 6 non-human life forms detected on board, contained on the bridge. The AI has initiated standard containment protocols, but reports no resistance from the intruders. Ilara nodded, brushing a strand of auburn hair from her face. At 42, she was young for a fleet captain, but her service record during the Arcturus conflict had fast-tracked her career. She had a reputation for level-headedness in crisis situations, exactly what was needed now. "Open a direct channel to the alien vessel," she commanded. The communications officer complied, and a moment later, the bridge's main screen displayed the interior of the alien ship. The being in the center, presumably the commander, had blue skin, 4 eyes, and a structured cranial ridge. It looked almost surprised to see a human face. "This is Captain Ilara Shaw of the Human Alliance. You have illegally boarded a military vessel and accessed classified systems. Explain yourselves." The alien spoke, its voice translated through the ship's eye. "I am Chief Researcher Valner Tellus of the Galactic Confederation Xenorchaeology Division. Our actions were purely scientific in nature. We believe the vessel to be abandoned, a relic of an extinct civilization." Ilara raised an eyebrow. "Extinct. According to our historical records, humanity disappeared approximately 300 cycles ago. Your home system was found empty, your colonies abandoned. We believe your species had suffered some catastrophic event." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. Ilara silenced them with a glance. "Your information is outdated," she stated flatly. "Humanity relocated its primary operations beyond the Persis Arm following the Proxima incident. Our expansion has continued uninterrupted for centuries." "The Proxima incident," Valner repeated. "Your ship's AI mentioned this as well. May I ask what?" "No, you may not," Ilara cut him off. "That information remains classified. What matters now is securing the Defiant and ensuring your research team hasn't compromised Alliance security." She turned to Commander Chen. "Prepare a boarding team. I want our people on that research vessel within the hour. Full scan of their databases and communication logs." "Wait," Valnar protested. "This is a violation of Confederation sovereignty. We are a peaceful research mission. A peaceful mission that boarded a military vessel without permission and attempted to access secure systems," Ilara countered. "From our perspective, Chief Researcher, this looks like technological espionage." "We had no way of knowing the ship was still active," Valner insisted. "Our scans detected no power signatures." Commander Chen leaned closer to Ilara. "That's actually interesting, Captain. The Defiant's stealth systems weren't supposed to be that effective. Either they've degraded over time, making the ship nearly undetectable, or their scanning technology is surprisingly primitive," Ilara finished. She studied the alien commander with new interest. "Chief Researcher, what exactly did you hope to gain by examining our relic?" Valner's skin darkened, possibly the equivalent of a human blush. "Understanding. Knowledge of a lost species. Human technology was unique in its design philosophy, different from the standard development path most species follow." "Different how?" "More direct. Less elegant but remarkably effective. Your species achieved faster than light travel using a completely different approach than any other known civilization. Your computational systems were innovative. Your weaponry was concerning." Ilara exchanged glances with her XO. The implications were clear. The Confederation had been studying humanity as a curiosity, a dead-end evolutionary branch with some interesting technological quirks. They had no idea what humanity had become. "I propose an exchange," she said finally. "We will release your research team, unharmed, in return for full access to your vessel's database. We need to understand what the Confederation knows about humanity and what they've been doing in our absence." "That would violate countless protocols," Valnar protested. "Your alternative is being detained for military espionage while we dismantle your ship anyway," Ilara replied bluntly. "I'm offering you courtesy because you appear to have acted out of ignorance rather than malice." While negotiations continued between the Indomitable and the Atheos, The situation aboard the Defiant remained tense. The research team had been confined to the bridge, under the watchful eye of the ship's AI hologram, which identified itself as RTNIS. So humanity didn't die out, Dr. Ziv remarked, breaking the uncomfortable silence. You just left known space. RTNIS regarded him with that unnervingly calm expression. The Alliance made a strategic decision to expand outward rather than inward. The inner galaxy was becoming crowded with emerging civilizations, many showing concerning levels of expansionist tendencies. Like ours? Dr. Jorel asked. The Confederation was in its infancy when the relocation occurred, RTNIS replied. Your species were still largely confined to your homeworlds. Dr. Telvac, who had been examining the bridge's systems from a safe distance, looked up. Your technology has advanced significantly since this ship was built, hasn't it? RTNIS tilted her head. This vessel is approximately 320 standard years old. It would be classified as a museum piece by current Alliance standards. The research team exchanged alarmed glances. If this ship, which already outclassed anything in the Confederation fleet, was considered obsolete by humans, what were their current vessels capable of? You mentioned the Proxima incident. Dr. Ziv ventured cautiously. Was that a conflict? RTNIS' expression darkened. It was a lesson, one that shaped Alliance policy for generations. Before she could elaborate, or more likely, refuse to elaborate, the ship's communication system activated. A woman's voice filled the bridge. RTNIS, this is Captain Shaw. Status report. Intruders remain contained, Captain. No attempts to access secure systems since initial contact. Good. We've reached an agreement with their vessel. Prepare them for transfer back to their ship. RTNIS nodded. Understood, Captain. She turned to the research team. You will be escorted to your shuttle. Do not attempt to touch any systems or collect any samples on your way out. Back on the Atheos, Valnar watched anxiously as human vessels took up position around his ship. The agreement he'd reached with Captain Shaw was far from ideal, but he'd had little choice. The humans would send a team to review their databases while the research team returned safely. I don't like this, Kira muttered as they monitored the approaching human shuttle. Giving them access to our systems. We have no choice, Valnar replied. And besides, what could they possibly find that would be of use to them? Our technological data would be primitive by their standards. It's not technology I'm worried about, Kira said. It's information about the Confederation itself, our worlds, our species, our defenses. Valnar felt a chill at the thought, but pushed it aside. They've had 3 centuries to observe us if they wished. If they meant us harm, they could have acted long ago. The human boarding team arrived with military precision. Unlike the research team, who had explored the Defiant with wide-eyed wonder, these humans moved with purpose, their expressions professional and guarded. Their leader, a tall woman with dark skin and short-cropped hair, introduced herself as Commander Reyes. We'll require access to your primary database and communications logs, she stated without preamble. Our team will work quickly to minimize disruption to your operations. Valnar couldn't help but notice that while the commander spoke, her team was already deploying small devices throughout the bridge, likely scanning technology or security measures. Of course, he replied, gesturing to Kira. My second will provide whatever assistance you require. Commander Reyes nodded curtly and began directing her team, while Valnar retreated to his quarters to compose an urgent message to Confederation Command. As he wrote, he struggled to convey the gravity of their discovery. Humanity wasn't just alive. They were thriving, advanced, and militarily superior to anything the Confederation possessed. Meanwhile, in deep space at the edge of the system, a new development was unfolding. 3 Confederation patrol vessels had detected the distress signal from the Atheos and were approaching cautiously. Their commander, Admiral Zorthak, was known throughout the Confederation as a military hardliner who viewed all non-Confederation species with suspicion. Status report. he demanded from the bridge of his flagship, the Resolute. Unusual energy signatures detected. Admiral, his science officer reported. Unknown vessel configurations surrounding the Atheos. They appear to be communicating. Communicating. Zorthak's mandibles clicked with impatience. With whom? Unknown, Admiral. But the vessels are of a design not in our database, and they're heavily armed. Zorthak studied the long-range scans, his compound eyes narrowing. He had risen through the ranks by being cautious with his own life, but reckless with others. Valnar Tellus was a scientist, not a soldier. He wouldn't know how to handle a first-contact situation with potential hostiles. Battle stations, he ordered. Approach vector, maximum stealth. Let's see what Chief Researcher Tellus has found. Aboard the Indomitable, Ilara reviewed the initial reports from Commander Rice's team with growing interest. They really thought we were extinct, she mused. Their historical records state that after several early encounters with human explorers, all contact ceased. They found Earth abandoned and assumed some catastrophe had befallen us. Commander Chen nodded. In a way, they weren't wrong. The resource wars of the late 21st century nearly did wipe us out. And then the Proxima incident, which they know nothing about, Ilara finished. Their records just show a gap where we should be. 300 years of human history, missing from their archives. Should we tell them the truth? Chen asked. Ilara's expression hardened. That's not my decision to make. High Command will need to determine our official stance on the Confederation. Her tactical officer interrupted with an urgent report. Captain, we're detecting 3 vessels approaching at high velocity. Configuration matches the Confederation design philosophy, but heavily armed compared to the research vessel. Reinforcements, Chen suggested. Or a military response, Ilara countered. They may see us as a threat. She straightened. Battle stations. Move to intercept but do not fire unless fired upon. Let's see what their intentions are. The bridge crew sprang into action as alert sirens sounded throughout the ship. The Indomitable's escort vessels mirrored its movements, forming a defensive screen between the approaching ships and the Defiant. Open a channel, Ilara ordered. They're not responding to hails, the communications officer reported. On the tactical display, the 3 Confederation vessels continued their approach, moving into what could be interpreted as an attack formation. They're charging weapons, the tactical officer announced. Ilara's expression remained calm, but her voice carried steel. So much for peaceful research. Deploy countermeasures and arm forward batteries. Let's show them exactly what they're dealing with. The human fleet's response was immediate and overwhelming. Defense systems activated that the Confederation sensors couldn't even classify. Energy shields solidified into visible barriers. Weapon ports opened along the hulls of vessels that had seemed smooth only moments before. From the Atheos, Valnar watched in horror as Admiral Zorthak's patrol group moved into attack position against the human fleet. What is he doing? He whispered in disbelief. They'll be annihilated. Frantically, he opened a channel to the Resolute. Admiral Zorthak, stand down immediately. These vessels are from the Human Alliance, a previously unknown military power. They have not shown hostility and are currently in diplomatic discussions with us. Diplomatic discussions? Zorthak scoffed. They've surrounded a Confederation research vessel and boarded it without authorization. That is an act of war, researchers tell us. They responded to what they perceived as an intrusion on their military asset. Valnar protested. We boarded one of their ships first. A derelict ship belonging to an extinct species. Zorthak countered. They're not extinct. Valnar shouted, his composure finally breaking. And that ship was not derelict. Please, Admiral, you don't understand what you're dealing with. But Zorthak had already closed the channel. On the tactical display, the Confederation patrol vessels continued their approach, weapons hot. Valnar turned desperately to Commander Reyes, who was monitoring the situation with alarming calm. Please, he begged. Can you contact your captain? Explain that this is a misunderstanding. Rise regarded him coolly. Captain Shaw is fully aware of the situation. The question is whether your admiral is willing to listen to reason. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Ilara watched as the Confederation vessels came within firing range. This was exactly the kind of scenario Alliance Command had always feared, a misunderstanding leading to armed conflict with a galactic civilization. Final warning. She instructed her communications officer. Inform them that any aggressive action will be met with appropriate force. The warning was transmitted on all frequencies, in every language the Alliance had cataloged. There was a moment of tense silence as everyone on the bridge waited for the Confederation's response. It came in the form of energy weapons fire, a barrage aimed at the Indomitable's forward section. Incoming, the tactical officer announced calmly. Ilara didn't flinch. Defensive countermeasures. The energy barrage struck the Indomitable's shields and disappeared. There was no impact, no dissipation effect, no shield flare. The weapon's fire simply vanished as if it had never existed. On the tactical display, the Confederation vessels paused, clearly confused by the lack of impact. Absorption complete, the tactical officer reported. Shield integrity at 100%. Energy successfully harvested. Ilara nodded. Target their propulsion systems. Precision strikes only. I want those ships disabled, not destroyed. The human response was swift and surgical. Beams of concentrated energy lanced out from the Indomitable's forward batteries, striking each Confederation vessel exactly at its engine mounts. The ships lurched to a halt, their propulsion systems offline in an instant. Targets neutralized, the tactical officer reported. No casualties detected. Their weapons and communications remained functional. Ilara allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Reopened the channel. This time, Admiral Zorthak answered immediately, his mandibles clicking with barely suppressed rage. This is an outrage, he began. An unprovoked attack on Confederation vessels. This was hardly unprovoked, Ilara interrupted coolly. You fired first, Admiral. We merely defended ourselves and then disabled your vessels with minimal force. We could have destroyed your entire patrol group with that same barrage, but chose not to. Zorthak fell silent, clearly reassessing the situation. Now, Ilara continued, I suggest we return to diplomacy. Chief Researcher Tellus and I were making progress before your intervention. The human alliance has no desire for conflict with the Galactic Confederation. But make no mistake, Admiral, we will defend ourselves if provoked. As if to emphasize her point, the tactical display updated to show 5 more human vessels emerging from FTL at the edge of the system. Massive ships that dwarfed even the Indomitable. The rest of my battle group has arrived, Ilara explained casually. I would appreciate it if you ordered your vessels to stand down so we can continue our discussion with Chief Researcher Tellus without further interruption. Admiral Zorthak's expression was unreadable, but his voice had lost its edge. Very well, Captain. But this incident will be reported to Confederation Command. As it should be, Ilara agreed. They should be fully informed about humanity's return to Gnome space. As the communication ended, Commander Chen approached Ilara's chair. That could have gone worse, he observed dryly. Ilara nodded, her expression grim. This is exactly why we maintained our distance all these centuries. Their first instinct was to attack rather than communicate. She sighed. Send a priority message to High Command. The isolation protocol has been compromised. Humanity is about to rejoin galactic politics, whether we're ready or not. From the Atheos, Valnar watched the exchange with a mixture of relief and dread. The humans had neutralized 3 military vessels with insulting ease. Their technology was centuries beyond what the Confederation possessed. And now they were aware of the Confederation's existence. What have we done? He whispered to himself. What have we awakened? Humanity revealed. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederation Supreme Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 37 member species had gathered, their usual decorum replaced by urgent whispers and anxious gestures. At the center of the chamber, Chief Researcher Valnar Tellus stood before the High Council, his testimony having just concluded. High Counselor Vexnar, the eldest of the Maraxian delegation and current head of the council, leaned forward. "Let me ensure I understand this correctly, Researcher Tellus. You're claiming that not only are humans not extinct, but they have established a vast interstellar civilization beyond our borders, with technology that easily neutralized 3 of our military vessels." Valnar's skin had paled from exhaustion after days of debriefing, but he stood firm. "That is correct, High Counselor. The Human Alliance controls at least 17 star systems in the Perseus Arm alone, according to their captain. Their defensive capabilities exceed our most advanced systems, and they were able to disable Admiral Zorthak's patrol ships without causing a single casualty." "This is preposterous," interjected Counselor Drez of the Tellarite hegemony, his quills bristling with agitation. "If such an advanced civilization existed on our borders, our long-range patrols would have detected them." "Unless they didn't want to be detected," countered Counselor Tilan of the Volhari Republic. The avian being's feathers rippled thoughtfully. "We've always known human technology followed unconventional development paths. Their stealth systems were particularly noteworthy even 3 centuries ago." Admiral Zorthak, still smarting from his humiliating defeat, rose from his seat among the military observers. "Whatever their capabilities, they have demonstrated hostile intent by attacking Confederation vessels. After you fired upon them," Valnar reminded him, earning a venomous glare from the Admiral. "Enough," Vexnar interrupted. "The facts are clear. Humanity has returned, or rather, we have discovered they never truly left. The question now is how the Confederation should respond to this development." A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. For centuries, the Confederation had been the dominant power in known space, expanding steadily, incorporating new species, mediating disputes. The sudden appearance of an unknown civilization with superior technology threatened to upend the entire galactic order. "Perhaps," suggested Tilan carefully, "we should invite these humans."